I lived in Ruidoso, New Mexico for about 9 months a few years back. I'm half white, half native, Navajo, but the tribe there are the Mescalero Apache, so I'm not a part of their tribe or anything, and I've never been on their res. But I lived in what is basically the downtown of Ruidoso, and I've been through some life-changing horror movie shit up in those woods. Every summer, my 2 older brothers, my little brother, and my mum would go there and stay for 2 weeks. No phones, no video games, nothing but nature. I always complained that I would die without my phone, and separation from my boyfriend for 2 weeks would destroy my life. Woe is me, right? But in all honesty, I love being there. That is, until this happened. My family's cabin had a long glass window wall alongside the living room, which was really nice in the spring and summertime. We had a few apple trees, and deer and elk would come onto our back porch and yard area. It was a really pretty sight. Right behind my house is a shallow creek, which used to have a bridge to cross over with, but it was wiped out in a flood a few years ago. There is an old water pipe that crosses the stream, however, but it's not all that wide, and it's pretty tricky to cross over. So me and my brothers, being the shit-faced boys that we were, built a dam in the creek that we could cross over and hold up a lot of water. We would use our silly dam to cross the creek and head into the woods, which was really thick but full of some cool trails. And to get onto a trail, you had to deal with a steep incline. So, one summer day, me and my 3 brothers decided to go out on a hike and follow the creek upstream. We did this so that we could go and play with these huge rock formations in the water. It's not totally uncommon to run into animals in the forest, and that includes the old mountain lion or bear if Mother Nature wants to really screw you over. So, as a little precaution, seeing as me and my little brother are 4 and 5 years younger, my 2 older brothers made me take the compound bow, and my younger brother take his silly airsoft BB gun. I don't want to brag, but I've made some badass shots with my bow before, and I'm a natural at sharpshooting. So my older bro says. Anyways, we're going along on our hike, laughing and talking pretty loudly. So in general, just having a lot of fun. When we get to this steepy rock incline that goes about 30 feet up to continue to the water rocks. So we all tighten our packs, and I sling my bow onto my back and close the sheath of arrows I had with me, and we ready ourselves to climb the mountain. We're all about 15 feet up and taking our time when a sheet of gravel and dust falls down onto us from the top of the incline. The odd thing is, it looked like it only fell from one small area at the ridge, like someone had finished climbing over, and this was them giving the cliff the final plateau at the top. So, me and my brothers all kind of just looked at each other and share the same look, like, what the hell was that? My oldest brother takes the lead and gets to the top of the ridge first and peeks over. He gives us the all clear and we finish climbing up. My bros go back to joking, but I had a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach, like I swallowed a rock or something. I've always been very superstitious, and I listen to my grandma's spooky stories about her life as a girl on the res the most, so I just tried to shake the feeling and excused it as nervous energy, and I tried to enjoy the hike again. We're in the last stretch before getting to the rock formations, and it's a load of rocks sitting in the creek you have to jump from one to another to get through. You couldn't get there any other way, seeing as the sides of the creek are lined by smooth incline walls. So we're hopping along in a line behind each other, and I'm taking up the rear when I started smelling this really strong copper, rust, burnt smell. I pointed out to my brothers, and they all sniff, and they notice it now. And like, smells don't just suddenly appear, but this one did. The air was normal 1 second, and then this stench is just there, and it's pungent. So my oldest brother is on edge, and he tells me in an oddly stony voice, "Hey, keep your bow loaded." So I nearly piss myself and get an arrow set between my fingers resting on my bow. We keep moving along and we finally get to the rocks, and all of our concerns before are forgotten. The smell was gone, the rocks were huge as always, and we had a full afternoon of sun. We finished up screwing around on the rocks and we're packing up our things, getting ready to head home before the sun starts setting. Everything's just calm and nice when suddenly the smell comes back. And you could feel the tension rise in the air as me and my brothers all look to my oldest brother. He's looking off upstream at something when he suddenly takes a really sharp breath, and then he turns to us eerily calm and says, "Come on, let's get home. Mum's going to be waiting for us." We follow our brother's cue and make our way across the hopping rocks a lot faster than we did before. My little brother is behind me when I hear him yelp and slip. Something splashing the water. I turn back and my baby brother has the most terrified pale look on his face. "Something just touched me," he says, frozen in place. I jog towards him and pick up his BB gun, which he dropped into the water, and pull him off the rocks onto the bank. My oldest brother grunts impatiently and tells my little bro that he imagined it and to keep up. Me and my second oldest brother keep in step with my little brother as my big brother leads the way. The sun is starting to set, and the woods around us are oddly quiet. No crickets or cicadas, or the sound of a far-off deer. I'm actually starting to get worried, and I get my bow loaded again, and I jog to catch up with my oldest brother. "Hey, bro, do you feel that?" He doesn't look at me, but he says, "Yeah, I do." My oldest brother and I have always been the most in tune with our surroundings, and it might sound ridiculous, but more in touch with spirits. And the look on his face and the fear in his voice will always terrify me. We get back to the 40-foot ledge, and my big bro makes my second oldest go down with my little brother. They basically roll their packs down and slide down on their backs and feet. I hold my bow in my arms and I'm getting ready to roll down when I get the urge to turn back, and I see a deer standing a ways back in the tree line just staring at me. I hold my bow in my arms and I'm getting ready to roll down when I get the urge to turn back, and I see a deer standing a ways back in the tree line just staring at me. I don't know what it is, but a wave of dread rolls over me as I stare at this deer. My brother calls up to me to get down there, and that's when I realize what's wrong. This deer has human eyes. This wasn't an animal staring at me. It was stone still, and it didn't blink. It just stood there. I don't break contact as I push myself down the ridge. I feel sick as my brothers and I break into a jog back to our house, and we all start hearing it. Branches snapping and twigs and brush scattering somewhere in the forest behind us. I start panicking and my chest starts heaving, and I feel absolute terror running through me. The stench is revolting and stronger than ever, and my brothers and I all start speeding up till we're practically sprinting through the woods. We break through the thicket, and now we're just running on dirt. Me and my older brothers are in a small formation, and we get to the water pipe that crosses the stream, and immediately start balancing our way across, somehow none of us slipping. My oldest brother is on the opposite bank, and I'm about halfway there when I hear my little brother's shuddering breaths. He's just barely getting to the pipe and starting to cross, when I see in the tree line behind him the same fucking deer. I feel a rush of power and anger course through me. I steady myself and turn around on this pipe and ready my bow. I take aim and I shoot. The arrow looks as if it should have hit the fucking thing right in the chest, but there was no mark. It just stood there like a statue. And then, I'll never forget this. This fucking thing stands on its back two legs. It turns into the woods, and then it's just gone. My little brother is crying when we get back home. and we're all covered in bruises and scrapes from crashing through the woods. It's dark out and we hear our mum pull up. She gets in and she looks at us like, what the hell happened? And then turns to my oldest. Don't worry, Mum, we were just hiking and little brother fell. To this day, I don't know why my brother never told her. My mum is white and my deceased father was Navajo, but I felt like she would have understood. But she took that as a good enough explanation, though, and set her bags down to start cleaning up my little brother. We all cleaned up and didn't say a word, but that night I could hear my little and second oldest brother whispering and talking in their shared room, and my two dogs were going fucking nuts outside. The next morning, I was the first one to wake up, and I went to the back door to let the dogs out to use the restroom. And there, shoved into our chopping stump for firewood, was an arrow. My arrow. The only one I fired that day at the deer. Well, we never visited there after that summer, and when we moved there, we forced our mum to buy a house in town. My oldest brother never went back there, and he went to college and never visited until we moved, always having an excuse for never coming home. I never got the chance to tell my grandmother what happened. She passed away later on that summer, and she was my last connection to my native heritage. I don't know if it was a Skinwalker or a Wendigo, but the thought itself is said to be bad luck, so I try not to think about this whole thing too much. My grandmother always said that the more you think about things like this, the more they draw to you. Scary as hell, right? But either way, I am never, ever going back to those woods.